And we're live. How you doing, everybody? Bullseye Bob here, and welcome to Everything Comics. And this is my very first episode of the 5 and 15 show. That's right. That's the show where I'm going to go over 5 different topics underneath one subject in 15 minutes or less. And I'm really excited about this. I've been planning this for quite a while. And so this is it. This is the first show. And as with any new endeavor, this is going to be a work in progress. I actually had a video that I was going to show at the very beginning of the show to go over my 5 things for this particular show. And I had some technical difficulties and I could not get the sound to work. So I'm going to have to wing it and do this live, which is okay. I don't mind doing that. But it definitely wasn't what I was planning. I had my new logo for the show there, and it's a little bit of sound effects and all the bells and whistles to make it look really cool. And we'll just have to say that this is a work in progress, and we'll go ahead and roll that stuff out as it comes up in future shows. But today's show is pretty special since it's my first one. I thought that I would go over my top 5 Daredevil runs, and I got to tell you, this is difficult for me. There are so many good runs on Daredevil. I'm a huge Daredevil fan. You guys know that. And to pick just 5 was really difficult. I went back and forth over this numerous times. And so we're going to go ahead and go over this tonight. But first of all, I just want to say that this particular episode is brought to you by a couple of our partners and sponsors. And so I just want to say this episode is brought to you by Comic Proline. That's right. If you have any of your comic book supply needs, there's a link down in the description. It's actually a email address to our good buddy Tony. But whatever you need, whether it be boxes, bags, boards, the show boxes, or whatever it is that you need for your comic supplies, Tony got you. He'll have you covered. The stuff that they put out from Comic Proline is really, really great. It's just a step below actual Mylar, so it's not as expensive as Mylar. But it definitely is much better, again, a cut above your regular bags and boards, and I highly recommend their stuff. So go check out Comic Proline, and they'll take care of you there. And then this episode is also brought to you by The Rogue Trader. That's right, my good buddy Eric. Just go to his website, theroguetraderutah.com, and if you are going to get a book graded, you definitely want to talk to Eric first. He'll take care of all your pressing and cleaning. And he also has comic books there on his website. A lot of stuff there to offer, but go check him out. There'll be a link down in the description. It's theroguetraderutah.com, and Eric will go ahead and take care of you. And so we're going to go ahead and get into my top 5 tonight. And I'm going to do this before I start acknowledging people inside of the chat, because I'm going to stay true to my vision of the show, which is where I'm going to go for the first however long it takes me to go over my top 5. And then I'll acknowledge everybody in the chat, and we can have a discussion over the next hour and see what you guys think about what your top 5 is. Or maybe you don't like my top 5. Who knows? But this is the time that we'll be able to discuss that, and I'm really looking forward to just engaging with you guys. And that's my favorite thing about this comic community, is being able to engage with all the wonderful people that I've met. And we have an amazing comic community. And it's not just about me. I want to hear your thoughts as well. And so this is it. This is the episode. My top 5 Daredevil runs. I'm going to do this in 15 minutes or less. Here we go. All right. So, and like I said, this was very hard for me to do because there are so many good runs on Daredevil. And so just bear with me. This is personal opinion, and I picked these based upon impact, how the run impacted me when I first read it. And so here we go. Starting at number 5, the Ed Brubaker Michael Lark run. That's right. This is the run that happens right after Brian Michael Bendis' run. It runs from about issue number 82 through 119 of volume 2 of Daredevil. And this is a really prolific run. And when I put it against Brian Michael Bendis' run, I had to think, which one of these was my favorite. And I'll just be honest, Ed Brubaker's run I enjoyed it more than Bendis's run, and so that's why it's here at number 5. He did some things with the character Daredevil that I thought was really cool. He was put into a bad situation in the very beginning. He basically was given the character in prison, of all things, and he had to write the character from there. I will say that I think Ed Brubaker knows the character Bullseye more than any other writer, because the way Ed Brubaker wrote that particular character in this book really hit home. And I thought he knows exactly what that character is supposed to be. And then, of course, we have all of the things that happen with Mr. Fear, and of course, you know, Matt having to divorce his girl who has gone mad. It's an awesome run. Definitely one of my top 5. And here we go. So that's number 5. Number 4, the Ann Nocenti John Romita Jr. run. This runs from about issue 236, and it goes for quite a while. We go all the way up to 291, interspersed in there. And this is a really prolific run. And this one is a very hard one, because I will say that Ann Nocenti did an incredible job on this book. I think it's very underrated. And but it also, at the same time, it was so brutal. It was so grueling. And it also, I will say that even though it is prolific in its nature, some of it was very hard for me to get through. It wasn't enjoyable, is what I'm trying to say. But when you look at what she did with the character Daredevil, she really did some things that nobody else had done before. And I think ahead of her time. I mean, she was probably one of the first ones that, you know, went over the consequences of being a vigilante. Not only that, but we know how brutal, how violent Daredevil is. And when you look at the fact that that violence also incites the same type of violence to meet it, she brought that out as well. She talked about how, you know, is it really okay for kids to look up to vigilantes, especially when they're as brutal as Daredevil is? So she had all these different things that she was doing with the character, and really broke him down and broke the superhero trope, probably, I would say, a little deeper than Alan Moore did in the stuff that he was doing. And so just for that reason, I think it goes down in history as doing some things that nobody had ever done before, and was an incredible, incredible run. So Ann Nocenti, alongside of John Romita Jr. I just tell you, I'm not a huge fan of Typhoid Mary, but that was a huge part of this. We got to see Daredevil broken down when he had to go face off against Mephisto. And he basically had to get cleansed of all sin. And when he comes out, he has amnesia. He doesn't even know who he is. And there's this one episode or one story where he basically, Bullseye comes across them, and they switch identities. And Bullseye, you know, tries this thing out, only to find out in the end that they were both going to be who they were meant to be anyway. And so that was kind of a cool thing to do as well. But anyway, Ann Nocenti did some things that were just unheard of. And I think it's very underrated, just because of the fact that I, like myself, I don't think a lot of people read it and go, man, that was enjoyable to read. It was very hard to read. But because of what she did, I have to put it on this list. Okay, my third on the list, number 3, the current run by Chip Zdarsky and Michael Checchetto. I can't say enough about this run. I think it's going to go down as one of the best runs in history. I have to put it on this list. What Zdarsky has done with the character is just incredible. I mean, so many people have taken the character Daredevil and broken him down, only to build him back up again. And of course, that's what happens inside of this as well. But you find out from the very beginning just how much Chip Zdarsky understands Matt Murdock and loves the character of Daredevil. This is probably one of the first times that anybody has taken and gone into Daredevil's faith. He had a crisis of faith where he's basically questioning who God is in his life and where he fits in the scheme when it comes to the supernatural, or when it comes to his own religion. Even going to one of the smartest minds of the planet, talking to Reed Richards and asking him what he believes in God, which really was really heartfelt, because number one, I think everybody goes through that. No matter who you are, if you have a belief in God, there are times when you go through times of doubt and wonder if what you believe is true and if he's really there for you. And so this was a really awesome run, all the way up into the Battle of Hell's Kitchen, and then bringing Elektra in as Daredevil while he's in prison. It's crazy, but it is amazing. And I will say that this run by Chip Zdarsky is definitely going to go down as one of the best runs of all time. I'm enjoying it immensely. Okay, number 2 on the list. Moving up here, and I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this, but I have to go with it because of how much it impacted me when I first read it. And it's a very small run of 8 issues by Kevin Smith and the artist Joe Quesada. I can't tell you how much this impacted me when I read it. Not only did it bring the grittiness of what we know to be Daredevil now, but it also brought that piece of it that felt like this is comic books, y'all. This is the type of stuff that I loved when I was a kid. And he does it in such a way that's just, I mean, it was fantastic. That coupled with the artwork by Joe Quesada was just incredible. And of course, we know that it completely saved Marvel at the time because they basically were going bankrupt. And if it wasn't for the Marvel Knights, and especially starting with this particular run of Daredevil, who knows if Marvel would have been saved. But I will say that this still impacts me today. It's got some of my favorite artwork of Daredevil. I love how Kevin Smith fought to be able to use the character Mysterio on that. I mean, Mysterio being traditionally a Spider-Man villain. And I didn't even know that there was politics involved when it comes to using villains on different books. Within Marvel, you just can't use Mysterio unless you get permission first. And he fought to use Mysterio, which I thought was a great play inside of the storyline. He brings in Bullseye in such a way. I mean, Bullseye is Daredevil's greatest nemesis. We know that he killed Elektra. He almost killed Black Widow. And inside of this particular run, spoilers, if y'all haven't read it, you're crazy. You should have by now. But here, Bullseye kills Karen Page, which is the love of Matt Murdock's life. And so you have all these different things that go on inside of this small little run, which kicked off the beginning of Volume 2. And I just love the Kevin Smith run with Joe Quesada on the art. I always will. It's amazing. And then my number 1 pick for the greatest runs of all time, how could I go with anything else than the Frank Miller run? This is just the most incredible, I think, breaking down of a character and building him back up that I've ever seen. We know what Frank Miller did when he came in on Batman and how he changed that character. But how he changed Daredevil will go down in history as one of the greatest reimagining of a character ever. This is where Matt's religion was brought into play. This is where some of the most gritty stuff that I'd ever read in comics was being brought out. I'm surprised that they got away with some of the stuff that Frank Miller wrote inside of that particular run. But of course, we have some of the greatest stories, and from there, we have the story Roulette, we have Gangland, and of course, my favorite of all time, which is Born Again, and that's just incomparable. I absolutely love Born Again has one of the greatest instances of forgiveness that I've ever seen. I've talked about it many times. And, with David Mazzucchelli on the art, a lot of people look at that run and they think, Mazzucchelli, was a larger part of it. He really was only part of the Born Again storyline. Mazzucchelli was actually on a lot of Denny O'Neil's run. And for the most part, for Frank Miller's run, it was his own art. Of course, you had Klaus Janson on there as well. But this is by far one of my favorite runs of all time, and it's definitely the one that I have to put at the very top for a run of Daredevil. So there you have it, you guys. Ed Brubaker and Michael Lark is number 5. Ann Nocenti and JR is number 4. Chip Zdarsky and Michael Cicchetto is number 3. We have Kevin Smith and Joe Quesada as number 2. And we have the Frank Miller run as number 1. And there is my 5 in 15 minutes or less. So what do you guys think? What is your favorite run on Daredevil? What do you like? Did you agree with me? Did you disagree with me? What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and check in with the chat here. I know that I got a lot of catching up to do, so let's just go ahead. We got Mr. Shane Larson. How you doing there, Shane? Always good to see you. My good buddy Nova69 Station, my friend. And then we got the Rogue Trader. Howdy, howdy, Bob, my comic brother. Back at you, brother. I'm doing well. How about yourself? And then we got Richard Narcia. He says, hi, Bob, Guam guy here, 10 a.m. on Thursday at work, so might disappear here and there. It's almost Friday. Thank you so much for watching all the way from Guam. That really fills my heart. And thank you so much for supporting the show and for watching whenever you can. I really appreciate that. He also says, I just picked up a short box full of Daredevil. Never really read Daredevil. Hopefully I can get through the box in one day. Well, you may not get through the box in one day, but congratulations. And hey, let me know what you think about your first step into the world of Daredevil. I think you'll like it. Then we got my good buddy, John Thomas Station, my friend. And always good to see you. You see, Shane here says, is the criteria for the list 5 single issues or 5 storylines? In this particular one, it's neither. It's the actual run of Daredevil, excuse me, which would have been multiple issues. If you look at, like I said, the Brubaker and Michael Lark run, that went from, in volume 2, issue 89, all the way through 119. So this has to do with runs, prolific runs by the writers of Daredevil, which is kind of how people look at the book. Let's see. John's talking. He's saying hi to people. Let's see. We got David E68. How you doing? Greeting from Ohio. Well, greeting back to you from Portland, my friend. Good to have you here. Let's see here. We got Jay Nunya. How you doing, my friend? Haven't seen you for a while. And we got people going back and forth saying hi to each other. Kirby's here. How you doing, Kirby? Station, my friend. And then we have Firehawk 2069. Hello to you as well. And let's go down here. And we got Simon. He says, great evening, comic book family. Hope all are doing well tonight, my friends. Hope you are doing well as well, Simon. Good to see you. Then we got Jen from Comics Will Break Your Hearts. How you doing, Jen? Haven't seen you for a couple of weeks. Always good to see you here. Let's see. We're going to go down. Everybody saying hi to each other. Shane says, I've only read a small amount of Daredevil. Bob would be ashamed of me. No, I'm not ashamed of you at all. We all got to step in sometime somewhere. As long as you're stepping in and reading, my friend, that's what counts the most. As long as you're reading comics, that's all I care about. Let's see, who else do we got here? I just want to make sure you don't miss anybody. We got Fable. How you doing, my friend? Station, my good buddy. Always good to see you. Let's see. Richard Archie says, okay, I'm a noob. What does station mean in the live chat here on YouTube? So station is something that is predominantly made popular by Robbie from Pop Culture Philosophers. If you've ever seen the new Bill and Ted's movie, there is a guy named Station. That's all he says is station, and it pretty much means be excellent to each other. We use it to greet each other, ever since that movie came out, and it's become kind of a thing. And so that's where that comes from. You don't have to use it if you don't want to, but there's a great many of us. We say station. Let's see. We got 2nd Street Marvel. He says, smash that like button. Hey, thanks very much, buddy. Glad you're here. Let's see. We got Maria Reyes in the chat. Why is it not clicking on? All of a sudden, my ability to click has been taken away. So Maria Reyes is here. How you doing? Always good to see you. And then we got there we go. So just late. We got my good buddy Bueller. He said, is that my shirt? No, you got your own shirt. I didn't come and raid your laundry, my friend. Always good to see you here, Bueller. Thanks for joining up tonight. Let's see. Firehawk says, "Are you guys the same size as Bueller?" I'm not the same size as Bueller. He's actually taller than me. Let's see. We got everybody saying hi back and forth. Nova 69 says, "Pop culture philosophers. Search in YouTube. It is one of my favorite channels. Check it out." Yes, most definitely check it out. Robbie, really good friend of the show. He does amazing reviews on his channel. If you haven't checked him out, definitely go check out Pop Culture Philosophers. And you'll see a lot of the same people that are here over there. Let's see here. We got Jeff, that old comic smell. How's it going, my buddy? Always good to have you here. And it looks like a lot of people greeting back and forth. I see somebody says Bobby. Is Bobby Delegato here? I didn't see. Okay, so here we go. We got Gore Vidal here. He says, "This is a piece of cake for Bob. His motto is, any DD run without Electra breaks my heart." Always good to see you, Gore. There we go, as long as you're reading comics. Rogue Trader says, "The current run is amazing. Thank you, Bob, for getting me on it. But the Miller run is flawless storytelling." I would agree with you. That is an amazing and prolific run. We got the comic collector P is here. He said, "Hello, Bullseye Bob. Hope you're doing well." Back at you, my friend. And there he is. There we go. Bobby Delegato, Station. Good to see you, my friend. So if I forgot anybody else, please forgive me. I've been going through. I don't think I've missed anybody here. But let's see. Gorvidal says, "My favorite runs are Frank Miller's, Bendis, Brubaker, and Nocenti. I don't find Zdarsky that interesting a writer, and I almost dropped DD until he introduced Daredevil." I'm assuming you mean when he introduced Elektra as Daredevil, or are you talking about when he finally came back as Daredevil? I hear you. I personally think his writing is genius. I think it's heartfelt as far as him getting to the heart of the character Matt Murdock, and I really think he understands the character more than most. But again, this is all personal preference, so I respect your choices there, Gore. You do have a really great comic book background, and so I hear exactly what you're saying. Let's see here. Richard says, "Sounds like I need to start with the Frank Miller run. Is that correct? Does the Netflix series count?" The Netflix series is good, but yes, I would start with the Frank Miller run and then go ahead and go through that. Gore did say that he likes Bendis's run. I think Bendis's run is an incredible run as well. But also at the same time, when I look at that run next to Brubaker's, I just enjoyed Brubaker's more. I really love what Bendis did with the character, especially the stuff he did with Kingpin. I mean, the Julius Caesar scene where his men are basically coming to take him out was an incredible scene. And then beyond that, of course, what he did with ousting Matt Murdock's alter ego. Him as Daredevil. That whole story was just incredible. Very well done. Very great pacing inside of there. But when I look at how much I enjoyed that, I really enjoyed Brubaker's run a little bit better. I think it was a little harder hitting and just some areas that I was just blown away by. Especially, like I said, I think that he understood just the character of Bullseye more than anybody else. And what he did there inside of prison, I thought was genius. So, Jane Nunya says, Zdarsky did Afterlift. It was dope. Yeah, Afterlift was really good. I read that when we went into the pandemic. I think that was a web. I think that was a web comic first, wasn't it? 215 Comics, hello there. He says, DD is one of my favorites. I have almost every book. Great list. Absolutely. There are many great runs on this, in Daredevil. It's not just the 5 that I've named. And I got a few others here that are definitely also mentions. I mean, if I could have, I would have loved the top 15 list on this one. Gore says Frank Miller's Born Again is a great way for new DD readers to begin. Then he or she can go back and read Miller's original run. Born Again is a Universal Studio story, and Universal Studio is a Universal story, and wonderfully sad. Absolutely, I think that the only thing would be if somebody goes to read Born Again, they wouldn't have the background on Karen Page inside of Matt's life. But I guess when it comes down to it, that's not really that important. It was important to me just because of how much she was a love of his life, and what she did to him is really, the whole crux of that story. I mean, when he comes to the end and she forgives him, it's just an incredible scene. So that would be the only thing. But yes, I would start with that Born Again story. I don't think you can go wrong with it. Wade's one run was whack. Yes, I did enjoy Mark Wade's run. I think Mark Wayne kind of took the character back to his more kind of comedic, happy-go-lucky type of role inside of the comic. It was witty, and I also like how Mark Wade went back and kind of brought out some of the lesser-known villains from earlier in the run. I appreciated that about his run as well. And by the way, Mark Wade's run comprises all of Volume 3. So let's see. Richard Narcia says, I'm more of an ASM guy. Older issues, not current run, but one of my DD-related issues is I believe his third appearance first with Spidey ASM 16. That may be true. Let's see. Third appearance first with Spidey. I'm not up on his appearances outside of Daredevil, so you may be right there. And if you have that, good on you, man. Richard Narcissus says, definitely going with to look for trades or reader issues. It's very easy to find Daredevil issues out in the wild. They're highly collectible, but they're not, I would consider, like overly valuable. And that's always kind of blown me away. But they're definitely there for the taking if you want to collect runs. It's very easy. So some of the other runs that have been in the past that I've really enjoyed. Jerry Conway's run was really good. That's for issues from about 72 to 98, and then he did a little small stint between 141 and 145. I think I enjoyed about Jerry Conway is he took the character to San Francisco, and of course later on, after the Brubaker run, we have a small stint with him going back to San Francisco to kind of regroup. So that all comes from that Jerry Conway run. Denny O'Neil's run, there's some issues there that I really enjoyed. And then of course, if you go back to the beginning, I don't think I appreciated Daredevil as much as I did until Frank Miller took over the character. But after I fell in love with him, I actually went back and I can appreciate issues from about 11 through 50, which was the Stan Lee and Gene Colan. There's a lot of great stuff inside of there, and I so much more appreciate it now than I did when I first started reading the characters. So I would say definitely check those out if you haven't. And then the run by D.G. Chichester was really good as well. There's some ambiguity there in a few of the different issues, but that's a great run as well. Let's see. Yeah, already read that one. Let's see. Shane says, Miller's DD came at a time when Marvel was at a creative peak, especially with all the writer-artists like Simonson, Thor, and Burns FF. Yeah, there was a lot of great stuff being put out at the time. But I remember when the Miller stuff started coming out, the Miller Daredevil stuff, people went nuts over it. Me being one of them, there were some things that he did inside of the run that was just, it was brutal. I mean, it was in your face, and stuff that really wasn't being done anywhere else, and so it kind of felt like it had this edginess that you couldn't find anywhere else inside of comics, and I just loved that era. Excuse me. You see Comic Cracks in here. How's it going, my friend? And then we got D Metz. Good to see you. Says, Bob, great to see you live again. Love your insights. Hit that like. Oh, I appreciate that as well. Let's see. Gore says, Daredevil for 40 years has consistently had good to great writers. I don't know any other title that can say that. I'd agree, which is, it blows me away, because when you look at like comic book speculation and, to see some of the comics from that area that have blown up in price. I mean, even the Born Again run, as prolific as it was, you'd think that would be a comic book that would be highly valued. You can still get a lot of the Born Again run very easily inside of short boxes, long boxes, when you're out on the hunt. So they're all still very much available, and that, like I said, it's kind of blown me away because of how good the writing has been on it. So it kind of goes against what I have seen with the rest of the comic book aftermarket, and I'm okay with it because I can get Daredevil for really cheap. Of course, I'm recollecting everything from the beginning, and so I'm about, I don't know, close to halfway there now. And I still got a lot of holes in some of my runs, but they're still very easy to get in the wild. And I've been trying not to fill those runs by going to places like eBay or anything like that. I really want to find most of the stuff in my local comic shops, and like at the swap meets that we have, and finding them out in the wild. That is just a lot more fun to me. There's something about just clicking on eBay and snagging comics from there that kind of takes the fun out of it. And I guess it's easier when you have comics that are harder to get. It can be very, that could be helpful. But for me, for my money, I'd rather find them out in the wild, especially ones that are least expensive, like a lot of the stuff in Daredevil. I'd much rather find it in the wild. So my collecting of the current collection that I have for DD had been kind of stalled because of COVID, because we really didn't have much going on. There weren't a lot of shops that were replenishing their back issues, and then we used to have things out here like the Frankenstein Comic Swap, which, if you ever come to Portland, that is one of the most awesome comic events that we have out here. It's just a huge room full of people going through long boxes. That's it. And it's so awesome. And I'd rather find those Daredevil issues out in the wild. It's just so much more fun and satisfying, and finding them that way. Let's see here. We have C-List E-Man. How you doing? Which is what I do, fam. Thanks for joining, my friend. We have Max Gee says, loved End of Days. End of Days is a great one and done. Well, I guess it came out as a miniseries first, didn't it? I have only collected it in the trade paperback, but I know it came out as a miniseries. And that was an enjoyable story by Bendis. I think Charlie Cox, the guy that played Daredevil in the Netflix series, that's the very first thing he read of Daredevil was End of Days. And even though he was kind of lost in its context, he said it really helped him hook into the character. And so that was kind of his introduction to Matt Murdock. And let's see here. We got Miguel Pull, Station, my friend. And we have Missing Link, Station to you too. Good to see you all. Thank you very much for joining. Comic Crack says, it's so strange that DD has never blown up. I'm very thankful that it mostly hasn't, though. Yeah, that's kind of one of those things. It's kind of a bittersweet thing. Number one, there's this thing about wanting to see, your favorite character blow up. But at the same time, because he hasn't, it's still affordable to grab a lot of the issues. And so that's kind of like a double-edged sword there. But I would have loved to have seen Daredevil get a little more love because he's such an incredible character. And I think there are more closet DD fans out there than there are in some other areas. So Jen says, I can't wait for the Frankenstein swap. Yeah. One of the cool things is I was just in contact with the guy who owns Cosmic Monkey, because they're the ones that put on the comic book swap. And their only thing that they need right now is a venue. And I've made a couple of suggestions to them. We have the local, I think is it the Elks? Hey, hon, what's that place on McLaughlin? What's that? Yeah, it's the Elks Lodge. So I've suggested the Elks Lodge. And then also, the comic book Fallout, the Fallout here in Portland. He just moved to a new location. He's got this huge space on 82nd where he can put like 10 to 15 tables and then maybe put some awnings outside so we can have an event. So they're looking at possibly having it one of those two places. But as soon as they announce the Frankenstein swap, guarantee I'm there first in line. And I know Bueller really, really enjoys that as well. And that's where you can usually find all of the Portland Comics crew. When any of those swaps come, whenever they do that Frankenstein swap, we are there. We're rolling deep. Let's see. Gorbadal says, Miller's DD, like Scorsese's Taxi Driver, changed how mainstream comics and films were written. Then in 83, Alan Moore's Swamp Thing added a new dimension to the medium. Historically important books. Absolutely agree with you 100%. This is when the face of comics changed, and it was a much needed change. And so it became more, there was more realism. There was a lot more that came out that was, questioning things that we should be questioning in society. And so really prolific writing happening, not just from Frank Miller, but, of course, as you know, how much Alan Moore did for comics in the industry. Great point, Gore. Max Gee says, Kevin Smith called DD the Grateful Dead of comics. I've heard him say that before. I never understood what he meant by that, to tell you the truth. But I do remember him saying that, which I thought was kind of funny. 215 Comics says, I just need number 1 and 2, then I'm complete. Oh, good on you, man. I still don't have an issue of number 1. It may be out of my reach at this point. A 0.5, I think, goes for in between $1,200 and $1,400 right now. So, it's getting up there. I mean, they finally gave number 1 some love, and it may have just put it out of my reach, but we'll see. Comics Should Break Your Heart says, can't wait to hang out at cons and swaps again. Yes, most definitely. And we will let you know, because we will be running deep with the Portland Comics crew, and you're definitely a part of that, Jen. And then Woody's Comic Chest brings him with the super chat. Thank you very much, my friend. He says, station, brother, station. He says, love the new exclusive. Thanks for signing it. Absolutely. It was such a fun night when Bueller and I got together and we sat down and signed all the books for the exclusive. That was such a fun time. I love hanging out with my buddy anyway, but we got to, it was kind of a weird dynamic. This exclusive comes out, and I think probably 80% of what we sold, people wanted signed. And so we had a signing party, and it was like, so this is what those comic creators go through when they sit down and just sign stuff. It was a lot of fun. But anyway, Woody, thank you very much for the super chat. I really appreciate that. Logan Lumpkins just says, I just reread Born Again today in prep for this stream. Netflix killed it. First of all, good on you for reading Born Again. It's an awesome read no matter what. I think I pick it up at least once a year and read it again. And Netflix hit some tropes very well inside of it. It wasn't fully born again, but they did hit a lot of the notes. And so I was really appreciative of that. I mean, of course, they didn't hit my favorite part of the whole thing, which was the Karen Page story. They would never do that. Let's just be frank on the Netflix show. And but other than that, I think that they did a hell of a job on that series. And I was so sad to see it go. I really hope that they bring it back. Steve White says, "Hey Bob, running late tonight. That's okay, friend. As long as you make it, and I appreciate you actually you being here. So thank you very much." Yeah, my good buddy Thunder God Comics. Have no fear, your Thunder God is here. Always good to see you, my friend. Just want to let you know that we will be doing a battle draft soon, and I'm going to be getting a hold of you because I know you wanted to be involved in that. And so stay tuned, my friend. We will be doing a battle draft. Bueller says, "I like hanging out with you too, buddy." Yeah, you know something, man? That's one of the coolest things about, the relationship. I just invited the dude to coffee one day, and this has been an amazing relationship. So always love an opportunity to hang out with Bueller, and I'm so glad we get to do it every Saturday morning. But times when we can do it outside of our normal filming, I really enjoy. So it's awesome stuff. And we got Papa Ken. He says, "Hello, good sir. How you doing, my friend? Thank you for joining us tonight." What's up, Bullseye? Awesome. Love that show. Absolutely. We got a couple of things planned down the road. I definitely want to do a battle draft, some type of take on indie comics, because we never really did one for independence. I'm still trying to figure out a way to do that. But now that we've gotten past a few of these, now I want to open it up for people to do some of the previous battle drafts, just with a different lineup of people, and see who can topple Robbie from Pop Culture Philosophers as the champion of the battle drafts. Let's see here. It says, Gorvidal says, "My favorite panel from Born Again is when the nun is sitting beside a bruised and battered Matt Murdock. Matt asks her if she is his mother, and she smiles and says no, but her heart skipped a beat." Yeah, that was, see, stuff like that is just absolutely, I mean, this is where I'm looking for comics to touch my heart in that way. And that's just such good writing. Great panel. I fully agree with you. Of course, my favorite panel is the panel where, Karen Page is confessing, to Matt what she has done. And there's no, it's not said. Matt never says, "I forgive you," but he embraces her, and the look on her face, the way Mazzucchelli drew the look on her face, the relief that was there, put me into tears. It's touched me so deeply, and it's just one of, I love stories of redemption, and especially when it comes to the issue of forgiveness. About to get choked up. And that was one that touched me very deeply. So, and there are a few different moments in that run where things like that happen. So thank you for pointing that out, Gore. Jen says, "Ooh, indie comics, my favorite." Yes, we know. I'm thinking of maybe trying to do something with indie horror comics specifically, and trying to come up with a way to do a battle draft in that way, because it's much harder when you don't have like characters that, when in Marvel and DC you have characters, but in indies it's more about the story, not the character so much. And so I'm still trying to figure out a way to do it, but I'm gonna do it. You watch. Let's see. Thunder God says, "I missed that Daredevil show." I really miss it too. I think that first season is one that's hard to beat. Second season was great because of the Punisher, but let's face it, that was more of a Punisher season. And then, them introducing Bullseye in season 3, I thought was fantastic. But I really had hoped that show would go on. because I mean it was hitting a lot of different tropes for me that I really wanted to see on the screen. So, but we'll see. We'll see. Gore says, agree, Bob. Karen's confession is a great scene. Yeah, it just blows me away. Ooh, indie horror, my real favorite. Yeah, absolutely, Jen. We'll see how we'll work it. That'll be a work in progress going forward. So it'll take me a little bit, and we'll see what happens. But definitely want to have our original panel on, and then we'll open it up for other people to come on and participate as well. And but I really enjoy doing those battle drafts. So, but this right here is a lot of fun. You guys know how much I love Daredevil, and there are so many great runs when it comes to this particular character. I cannot I can't express enough just how much I love them. We got a whole shelf up here dedicated to Bullseye and Daredevil up here, and then most of my collection is Daredevil books. You guys know my likes and my tastes, and it varies. But one thing that's always there is I really pour into my favorite characters, and so I couldn't start this 5 and 15 series show without starting with Daredevil first. I'd be remiss if I didn't do that. So I definitely wanted to start with some DD action. I'm planning on doing this show about every 2 weeks. The next show you don't want to miss. I'm going to be going over my top 5 Ray Harryhausen movies. That's right. I love me some Ray Harryhausen back in the day. And let me just kind of tell you the reason why I'm doing this. See, I started to notice that one of the things that really blew me away, if I look back at the history of me in comic books, when I first got into comic books, I dove into them so hard and went so deep so quickly that I was blown away. Just, I mean, what was it about comic books that really grabbed a hold of me the way that they did? Before I get into that, Woody's Comic Chest, thank you very much. Let's give Bob some support. We know he works hard. Let's give him some support with some super chats. Brother, I appreciate that very much. Thank you so much for the super chat, and thank you for the acknowledgement of hard work. It is very hard to to do these after hours and kind of hobby stuff alongside of the other stuff that I do, and so I do really enjoy being able to finally get to do it. But it is work. I'm not going to lie, it is work that you have to put in. But seriously, when I first got into comic books, I dove so deep into them, and so I had to look back and say, what was it about comics that hooked me the way that they did? And I had to realize that before I got into comic books, there were a lot of different things that I had lent myself to that I really enjoyed, that I loved, that I found all in one in comic books. So one of the things that I first started with back in the late 60s was kaiju movies. The Godzilla movies and then also on TV, Ultraman and Johnny Sacco and his flying robot. I used to eat up all that Japanese kaiju stuff because American cinema, they just weren't doing stuff like that. And so I was blown away by it. And so that was one of the things. And then, of course, you guys know my love of kung fu movies. Well, a lot of the tropes that happen in those kung fu movies, that's comic books. You got these guys that are training in these special techniques to take down the big bad guy. And I used to just be blown away by the training, by the attempts that they would make, to right wrong. And it was classic good versus evil. A lot of them were vengeance stories. I have to realize that. But this right here was, there's a lot of stuff that I just loved from those kung fu movies happening right there in comic books, especially when you got into stuff like the Hulk versus Thing. You got two of these characters that are just amazing, and they're going to go up against each other. And that's what would happen in some of these kung fu movies. You get, this Grand Master going up against this, evil Grand Master, and they're going to take their two styles and go up against each other. And it was epic. And I found that same type of epicness inside of comic books. And, you know, Ray Harryhausen movies is another one of those things. When I was a kid growing up, I never forget how blown away I was by Jason and the Argonauts. And that kind of got me into the whole fantasy realm and, you know, that type of special effects. And so there were all these different things that went into things that I loved that I picked up from when I was a kid. You know, earlier when I was a kid, when I was 12 years old and picked up that first comic book, it was like all those things that I had ever loved were right there in one place. And I found my world. I found, you know, that I was home. And so, so what I want to do with these 5 and 15 shows is highlight some of the different things that went into, you know, my love for comic books that made me the comic book fan that I am today. And so, so that's why next we'll do the Ray Harryhausen movies. I'll do early science fiction movies. I'll do, you know, early fantasy books. I mean, there's so many different things I could go into that were a part of my comic book reading. And so I'm going to be doing these top 5 lists, sometimes bottom 5 lists. And it was my way of being able to show you those things, and then also talk about other things besides comics that we really enjoy as well, that are part of pop culture. And it was just a way to kind of encompass it all in one arena. So that's the reason for the 5 and 15 show. And I really hope you enjoy it, and I really hope you join me in it, because it's going to be a lot of fun. Because like I said, I want to hear from you guys too. I want to hear what your favorites are. I want to hear what the things that made you a comic book fan before you actually got into comics. I think those are things that are important, and it definitely informed my reading later on. Let's see, we got Gore says Elektra Assassin by Miller and Bill Sienkiewicz, though remains my favorite work by both men. I revisit it every few years. No one has come close to writing and drawing her like that masterful work. You know, I agree. I think Bill Sienkiewicz's art inside of that was just amazing. Absolutely. And that's one that, Gore, I would agree with you. And I know in the past I've given you crap about Elektra. Only reason why I did that was because when I first started reading Daredevil, with especially the Miller run, it was so obvious to me that he created that character to kill her. And so that made me mad. It was like a throwaway character, and everybody went wild over this throwaway character. And I didn't give her the credit that I probably should have. But I'll tell you what, after everything that I've seen in this Zdarsky run, he's doing something with her that I never thought was possible. And I have fallen in love with her. So there you go, Gore. I said it on screen. I am really enjoying the character, but I agree with you that work by Miller and Sienkiewicz is amazing, absolutely amazing. Let's see here. Steve White says the latest Zdarsky run is awesome. I'm really enjoying it. I really can't wait to see where they go with it next. Like I said, when I was at Emerald City Comic Con, Chip Zdarsky said he had something very special planned with Mike Murdock, and now we're seeing that come to fruition. So we'll see what he does with that. Thunder God says, hell yeah, Clash of the Titans. Clash of the Titans is a great one, and we'll be going over my top 5 Ray Harryhausen movies when we do it, and that'll be on Wednesday, June 2nd. I'm going to do these every 2 weeks. So Wednesday, June 2nd, I'll be doing my top 5 Ray Harryhausen movies. Bobby Delgado says, yes, Ray Harryhausen movies. Absolutely, brother. Absolutely love them. Jason Doyle says, hey, Bob, nice shirt. Are they for sale? First of all, Jason, good to see you. No, they are not for sale yet. These are actually prototypes that I had made with this particular company to see how I like them. And there's a couple of things that, number one, didn't sit well with me. First of all, I don't like the material on these shirts. They're too thin. Second of all, they weren't consistent with the graphic. This particular graphic is a little lower. On Bueller's shirt that I gave him, it's actually a little higher, which is where I want it. And then the quality of it, this has not been washed yet, and I can already tell if I'm going to wash it just a couple times, it's going to start fading really quickly. So I have another company that I'm going to work with. They do some really awesome work, and they have some great material. I just showed off a T-shirt the other day from my buddy Jeff. Here it is right here. They did this one, which is he had this made for me by the same company, which is the Nelson and Murdoch Avocados at Law. But you can see the quality of it. The shirt is much thicker. You can tell that this transfer is going to last for quite a while. And so I'm probably going to go with that company to produce some shirts. And, you know, on the coffee video from this weekend, there were quite a few people that said that they would buy a shirt. So I don't know. I just may produce some and put some up for sale. So stay tuned, and I will let you know. And then we'll see if we go ahead and maybe sell some. I was thinking of using them as possibly for when we go to Washington State SummerCon as maybe some giveaways there. But I wasn't planning on buying a very large quantity. But so we'll see what happens. Let's see. Thunder God Comics says stop motion was ahead of its time. It sure was. And I mean, back then, that was the only way that we got some of the special effects that we take for granted now, you know, with digital. Ray Harryhausen was ahead of his time and did some amazing stuff back in the day. So we will definitely highlight that. And then he said, I remember watching that stuff as a kid. Of course, Bullseye was an adult. I don't know how old you are, buddy, but maybe you're right. I don't know. Let's see here. We got House Till the End is here. How you doing? Hello to you as well. And then Thunder God says, late great Bill Bixby Hulk show was one of my first introductions into the genre. Yeah, I think my first introduction into the genre was the Batman 66 show. And then there were some cartoons that came out in 1966. They were kind of almost like stop motion comics. You had Captain America and a few others. And I think that was my first introduction into there. And then, of course, the Spider-Man anime, the very first cartoon that came out, that kind of rounded out my knowledge of comic characters back then. I think there was even the Aquaman show. I used to do the Aquaman show back then. Let's see. House Nina said, Electra Lives Again hardcover was a good one. I would agree. That's another good one there. Gore Vidal says, I saw Jason and the Argonauts and Sinbad at film at Saturday matinees. Tom Baker appeared in one of them and got him noticed for a little-known show as Doctor Who. That's right. Tom Baker actually plays the wizard of one of my I think it was maybe is it the Seventh Voyage of Sinbad? I don't know, but it's the one where he has the statue that has the 6 arms with each one with a different sword, and that was Tom Baker. And you're exactly right. He went on to be known for Doctor Who, and I'm a huge Doctor Who fan. So I don't know if you guys knew that about me or not. Both my wife and I love Doctor Who. Matter of fact, our pug is named River Song. Let's see. Woody's Comic Chest says, Bob, next time I'm visiting my family up there, it would be great to meet you and have some coffee. Absolutely. You let me know when you're going to be here, and Bueller and I will get together with you at either Mocha Express or the Refuge, and we'll have some coffee, and we'll go and visit some of the coffee shops. But I would love that, my friend. That's what we do here in Portland. Coffee and comics. Logan Lumpian says, is Bullseye Bob a fan of Iron Fist or Shang-Chi's mythology? I am and I'm not. I do like the Kung Fu stuff that they've come out with inside of comics, but because I'm such a huge Kung Fu fan, and there's some things that they kind of dipped their toe in and didn't go any further than that. There's a lot of things you can do with Kung Fu that they've just never done in Marvel Comics that I think that they should have done a long time ago, to put martial arts up on the level of, you got cosmic play, you got the realm of Doctor Strange, which is magic, and I think martial arts should have been a realm unto itself as well, having prolific powers like you'd see in something like Storm Riders from Wing Ching Ma. I think he did it perfectly. But yeah, I'm a fan. I just wish that they would go a little further into that genre to create something that would truly be amazing inside of comic books. And so I did pick up Shang-Chi #1 today. Haven't read it yet. Matter of fact, I was kind of disappointed in my poll. This is the first time my comic did not get all their comics today. My LCS didn't get all their comics today. And so I'm short. I won't get my other comics till tomorrow. Then we got Let's Go Streaking 3. All right. Love the name. He says, big Kanto fan? Yes, I'm a huge Kanto fan, if you didn't know that about me. As you can see on the wall behind me, on the wall of fame, I got this month, there's 9 Kanto comic books there. And then, of course, right here on the wall is the print that David Boer sent to me of the original Kanto cover. I'm a huge Kanto fan and can't wait to see what they come out next with that character. Thunder God Comics says 1966. I wasn't born yet. Yeah, that's when I was born. It was 1966. I didn't watch those shows in 1966. I was watching them probably in 1972, but they were all syndicated on TV, and that's where I got introduced to them. Max G says Batman 66, Ultraman, Spider-Man. Absolutely. All of those I was into when they were on TV. Shane says Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends was my introduction to Spidey. Yeah, that's a great many people's introduction to Spidey. I have to realize that there are people out there that their introduction to a lot of these characters came from the TV. And when I was growing up, Green Lantern, I only knew the original character, and that there's a whole group of people out there that only know. I just went blank on the name, but there's so many different Green Lantern characters out there, and there's a whole group of people that don't know, the original character. So it kind of blows me away when it comes to how media has influenced and just what is influenced, to people when they first start watching it. I think that's very interesting. Steve White says the Batman show with Adam West started it all for me. Yeah, I think it started a whole bunch for me because I watched those shows religiously. And you can tell I'm starting to get a little punchy here because I'm starting to forget names. That's what it usually ends up happening to me. DC Dude says, oh, still live. Hi, Bob. Hi, all. Well, good to have you here, my friend. Thanks for joining. Thunder God says, but Batman 66, I remember watching the replay in the early 80s. Absolutely. Let's see. John's Comics with Kids are here. How you doing, my friend? Sorry to be late. I'll probably need to catch the start on the rewind. Well, it's good to have you here, John. As always, thanks so much for joining tonight, my friend. John Stewart, that's exactly. There's a great many people out there who only know the John Stewart character, and they don't remember. Gosh, why can't I remember the original Green Lantern? Anyway, they know John Stewart more than they do the original character. Gosh, I'm really starting to blow the names here, guys. Let's see. John says, my top 5 DD runs would be Miller, Bendis, Zdarsky, Brubaker, and Wade. Well, it's not too far from what mine was, John. I actually had Kevin Smith's run in mine and alongside of Ann Nocenti's run. And Mark Wade is definitely one that's on my honorable mentions because of what he did with the character. And then Bendis, I kind of tossed a coin between Bendis and Brubaker on the list, and I went with Brubaker because just my enjoyment of that run. And so, but again, I should have had a top 15 for this list, John. It's so hard to pick just 5 when it comes to our boy DD. Let's see, Gore says, the relaunch of Doctor Who in 2005 up until Capaldi's final episodes were masterful. They made the companions Rosie Tyler, Amy Pond, and Clara Oswald integral to the Doctor's wonderfully sad storylines. I would agree. My wife and I loved every single one of those episodes. So Gore, out of all of those doctors that you just mentioned, who's your doctor? Which one is your favorite? And I'll just go ahead and and tip my hat. And for me, it's David Tennant, number 10, was my favorite out of those doctors. And so, but everybody has their favorite. Everybody has their own. And let's see. House to the End here says, "Hey, John." He's saying hi to John. Gorbadow says, "And the theme song associated with the companions was absolutely brilliant." Oh yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things inside of movie making and storytelling that I love is when they have theme songs associated with characters, and they definitely did that for those. Let's see. Hal Jordan, thank you very much, Max. I appreciate that. Again, when I start to get tired, I start to miss out on names, and it's been a long day. Roger says, Flash Gordon, Tarzan, The Lone Ranger, and Kung Fu was my gateway drug. Man, those are awesome. I also watched each one of those. And when you say Flash Gordon, do you mean the original serial Saturday serials, or are you talking about the movie Flash Gordon? Let's see, DC Dude says Capaldi was my favorite. John says never read Ann Nocenti's run. Got to try that one. That's one that you really got to sit down, John, and be prepared for it, because there's parts of it that are not enjoyable. But what Ann Nocenti did was prolific. She gave Daredevil and Matt Murdock the Alan Moore treatment. I mean, she had storylines and tropes questioning things back in a time when nobody else was. So, you know, like the whole thing with Civil War and, you know, the culpability when it comes to collateral damage. She was on that way before Civil War ever came out. Or the issue of looking up to a vigilante or a kid, looking up to a vigilante who's violent, or the issue of understanding that violence breeds violence, and how much culpability do you have, if you're trying to, save the innocents, how much culpability you have when violence starts to rise up to meet the violence that you played out. She did so many different things, and it's so underrated of a run because of the social commentary that she was bringing to it. It's an incredible, and it has to be mentioned as being way ahead of its time and up there with what Alan Moore was doing inside of comic books. But there's a lot of it that's it's not enjoyable. It's grueling. It's brutal, man. So, definitely don't look at it as, I'm going to, get on this comic and I'm going to be enjoying it. No, you're going to have some heartfelt moments where you're searching yourself too. It's good stuff though, John. Definitely has to be mentioned up at the top. Sounds powerful, right up my alley. Absolutely. Thunder God Comics says, Doctor Who completely ended with Peter Capaldi. Have not watched since him, and I won't. I tried. I can't think of the lady's name who played the current Doctor. I tried to watch a couple episodes, and I don't think it was her fault. I think the writing was just terrible. Once they're bad with names again. I can't think of the guy who was doing most of the writing. Moffat, I think it's Peter Moffat. Moffat is the guy that was doing most writing. Him not being on it, I think, hurt the show more than anything. I don't think it was her. I could be wrong. Alex Avani, thank you very much for joining. He said, also made Daredevil fight the Devil's Son, and a punk rock chick. Yep. She's the reason Daredevil got canceled along with DG. I'm assuming you're meaning Chichester. Yeah, but I mean it's definitely it's a brutal run, that's for sure. So, but we are at the end of the show, you guys. I want to thank you so much for joining me tonight for this brand new 5 and 15 show. I'm really looking forward to doing this going forward. Like I said, I'll be doing it every 2 weeks. The next one will be on June 2nd. And I'm going to be going over my top 5 Ray Harryhausen movies. And of course, I'm really looking forward to highlighting the things that informed my comic book reading, that made me such a huge comic book fan when I first got into comics. And that's kind of the reason why I wanted to do this show. And then it's a way to highlight a bunch of different other stuff in pop culture that I enjoy, that I know you guys enjoy. And I'm really, really looking forward to doing future episodes on the show. I'll have some special guests to do some of these with going forward. And who knows, maybe I'll talk to you. But I really appreciate you guys joining tonight. And I think it was a great first episode. Of course, I got some bugs to work out, and we'll be doing that going forward. All the bells and whistles I wasn't able to play at the beginning of the show because I lost my audio. But definitely we'll get it fixed going forward. So just before I leave here, we got AI. He says, caught the end. Live still counts as catching live, I guess. We'll rewatch. Thank you, my friend, for showing up. And then Gorvidal says, I agree, Bob, John, about Ann Nesenti's run. It was very good. One of my favorites. Shane Lorison says, great show. Had fun watching. Bye, everyone. Absolutely. Thank you very much. Bobby DeLagetto also says, great show. Woody says, I really like the Oblivion song books. Still waiting for the new ones. Yes, I definitely have gotten, not all of them yet, but I am on them. So, but anyway, thank you guys for joining tonight. I appreciate you all. This is the first episode of Bullseye Bob's 5 and 15. Join me for the next one on June 2nd, and we'll have a great time. But always remember to support your local comic shop, folks. And as always, Excelsior. Take care, y'all.